Hi guys, welcome back. It has been a week. It feels like it's been forever since I talked to you guys every single day in October. What a long journey was 31 Days of Horror, and I want to thank you guys so much for your comments. They were completely overwhelming. Thank you so much for the entire adventure. I just love doing it. Let me know if you loved this year and what you liked the most, and if you want me to continue it next year. Today we're going to do a wrap up, so if you didn't catch all of the 31 Days of Horror, that's fine. You get a little cheat sheet today. We get the top movies, the bottom movies. I've got ranked 5 best, 5 worst, and then I've also got some cool stats in for you. Wow, what a journey though. I do want to say the lighting's a little bit uneven today because one of my lights broke. During the 31 Days of Horror, my camera also broke. I don't know if you guys can see, but that's the lens like folding back in on itself. So that was fun. This was my favorite camera. This is where I started. I actually ordered a new one, so I have a new camera to go away with. But oh my God! How sad. It's the saddest moment of my life, I have to say. It was very sentimental, and this will belong on the shelf behind me from now on. But I do think it's important to include that there was many obstacles throughout 31 Days of Horror, including my live, which I absolutely loved, and I loved being with you guys, but there was some technical errors, of course. But we really had to soldier through it all, and I'm so glad that we did, because here we are. Also, I thought it was fitting if I wore my Amy script jumper, because this one, and I have a grey one that I just lived in throughout the 31 Days of Horror. I'm not sure if you caught that. But let's really break down the month and give it a wrap up before saying goodbye to this year's 31 Days of Horror. So this year was actually the most diverse year ever. I've been doing 31 Days of Horror for, I think this is my 4th year online, I believe, and I've been doing it also offline. Before I started my account, I did 31 Days of Horror just by myself. I don't know if I did it on Instagram, but I did make, a picture and went through 31 videos, one every single day of October for about 2 or 3 years before I started YouTube. But this year was so diverse. Year-wise, the decades, how we varied. Country-wise, this is the most foreign films I've had. And also rating-wise, we had so many different ratings. I think if you watched last year, I had a lot of 6s and 5s. This year was incredible because I had 4 8s, 9 7s, 10 6s, 5 5s, so smack in the middle on the fence for 5 of them, 2 4s, and only 1 3, which happened to be, if you watched, it was the final day. Did you guys like that video? I was pretty tough on Dean, but anyway, I can't believe my 31 out of 31 was the worst movie. Happens. I was gonna say it's a good thing that we didn't drop below 3, but I think it would have been kind of hard to, and I'm glad we didn't. But there was definitely more above 5, which is quite rare, and I'm very happy with. Obviously, I say it's rare, not because I've seen all of the horror movies. Obviously, there's no way I could even see them in my lifetime, unfortunately. But usually when a movie comes out with a super high rating, I'm down to watch it straight away. I know that that sounds really bad, but if everyone's going on and on hyping a film up, including you guys, I want to watch it. So it's cool to find some films that I was able to score 8s, and I'll get to it, a 9, that I'd never seen before and I wouldn't have seen without 31 Days of Horror. I had over 830 submissions for 31 Days of Horror, and we're going to do this completely different next year because some of you guys gave me like 20 submissions. It was insane, but the most popular submission was Satan's Slaves, and that's why I went with that. There was also 12 different countries. We went to 12 different countries across 31 Days of Horror, which is amazing. I was thinking there was going to be a lot from Sweden, but there's actually only 2. So we had 12 from America, 4 from Germany, 2 from Sweden, 2 from Italy, and 2 from Japan. So that was really cool, something very different, and something that I really enjoyed. There was lots of subtitles throughout this year. I think everyone can agree with that. So should we start with the bottom? I was going to start with the top 5, but let's start with the worst films of 31 Days of Horror. So I'm going to start with the 5th worst film, which it was hard to pick because this had to be in like the 5 ranges, which is on the fence. So I wouldn't say it's a bad film by any means. The 8 Immortals, The Untold Story. I'm sure you guys remember this one. It's from Hong Kong. The reason I have this one on the list is because the tone didn't really match, and a lot of you guys agree with me in the comments. I did have someone comment on my Twitter explaining that this is just the kind of comedy that happens in Hong Kong kind of cinema, but just because it was a true story, it just didn't work for me, and it's also my personal score. And we did talk about that earlier in the month, my rating being my personal score. So that's just it for me. For number 4, I've put in The Hidden, which I think a lot of you guys would like, but I just felt like it was really plain plain and really draw it out. And yeah, not a big fan of that one. But if you're into 80s music and, you know, simple storylines with a little bit of sci-fi horror, definitely check that one out. Number 3 was Baby Blues, which a lot of people were really excited for me to watch because it is in the disturbing factor kind of area, but it felt kind of like a Hallmark movie or, you know, like a Lifetime movie gone wrong. It didn't really work for me. The acting was pretty atrocious, and it was based on a true story, and I just don't think it paints, you know, postpartum depression in a very positive light or educational light. It was just intense. But if you're into messed up films, recommend. It is on YouTube. Second is Mulberry Street. Again, I had seen this poster again over and over and over and over, so I'm glad I finally saw it. But wow, what a weird ass film. I'm looking forward to seeing the other films from the director, because on that day you guys did comment that Stakeland's really good, which I still haven't seen, and he did that new series on Netflix, so I need to check that out. And then again, number 1, I don't think that this is any surprise, Deep Rising is my flop for the year, and that's definitely one that I 100% wouldn't recommend. I probably wouldn't recommend that or Mulberry Street, but especially Deep Rising, not a big fan. Although I do know some of you guys probably liked it and liked like the 80s cheese, but it was not for me, especially with that action. Top 5, I'm very excited by this. I have Peeping Tom and Opera as number 5. I put these guys together because I kind of like them as much as each other. Obviously, Peeping Tom, I was really blown away by the story and the backstory of Mark, the main character, the Peeping Tom. I thought that they really made him complex, and I just love that. Opera, although I did watch it with my patrons in a crazy live stream and didn't get, you know, the full experience, I really loved the way it looked and the music, and it just gave me a lot of good vibes and a lot of, I know, good vibes and like pins going into her eyes, good vibes and a lot of good feels, and I just love that kind of horror. It's just beautiful. It's very comforting to me. And a lot of you guys did ask where the pins were in my opening titles. That is obviously from that. If you guys didn't know, I do my opening theme every single year. I edit that myself, and I put in all of the movies like trailers. If you didn't understand that, that's what's really cool about watching 31 Days of Horror, is that you don't really know which bits are going to be in that starting theme. So it's really cool when you're watching the film and a moment pops up. I love that. Number 4, I gave to Bedeviled. I can't believe I'd seen this film before. It was pretty hilarious that I'd seen it before, but again, another movie that goes in the Disturbed pile. Highly recommend. Beautiful film, and something that hopefully I won't forget anytime soon. That was such a freaking error on my account. If you didn't watch, I had watched the film before and I didn't realize. Number 3 was Dracula. A lot of people were very confused why I like this film. It's a very polarizing film. I found that people either love it or hate it. And people really don't like Keanu Reeves in this film, but I'll take him in any film. I love it. And it's something that I always thought about afterwards during the whole 31 Days of Horror, and I think it was day 2 or 3. And I really loved that movie, and it's definitely a film I'll watch again. I just loved the costumes. I thought they were amazing. Number 2, I'm giving to Phantom Carriage, which is a Swedish film from the 20s. I love this film. I'm obsessed with this film. It was beautiful. I know I didn't watch it with the right score. In fact, it probably doesn't even have a score. Lots of people have said that. But I thought it was beautiful. And yeah, if you don't like silent films, you don't like silent films. It's a silent film, by the way. But the emotion that can come through a silent film is just unlike anything else. It's pure magic. Which leads me to number 1, which is another Swedish film, not a silent film, but a very experimental film by Ingmar Bergman. I'm sorry I didn't really talk about him in the review, but I did talk about The Seventh Seal, which is another film that he's done. I haven't seen a lot of his work, but I know you guys are really hyped up by him and love all of his work. But Hour of the Wolf is, like, I haven't stopped thinking about that film since I saw it. So much so that I do want to have like a little chat with you guys right now about rating films and letting them marinate. I know a lot of you guys don't put your scores in Letterboxd straight after you see a film. And you know what? I totally agree with that. Sometimes you need to rest on a film and then like figure out how exactly you feel. There's a lot of films I had that with. And that is The Hour of the Wolf. I kind of saw it, went upstairs. I remember the day I was filming on the balcony and I just was like, oh my God, that was the greatest film, 8 out of 10. But I will definitely give that film a 9 out of 10, and I'm going to change my score to a 9 out of 10 because you know what? Who's going to stop me? And don't let people tell you that you're wrong because you changed your score on a film. You can change it. You can like sit there, you can rewatch a film and feel different. And yeah, I think it's really bad. I have a lot of people that, you know, give me like hate comments if I rewatch a film. I used to do a series called A Second Chance and rewatch a film and see if, you know, it was more hyped up the first time, or I didn't like it the first time and I watched it a second time. And sometimes your taste in films change. It depends what you're going through. It depends where you see it. Depends, like, you know, how you relate in that time. So this one, definitely gonna give it a 9. It's got a 7.7 on IMDb and I'm giving it a 9. I haven't stopped thinking about the film. I loved the film. It's a 9 for me. Before we go, I think it would be really fun to give out a couple of awards. Some 31 Days of Horror awards. For the most creative movie, I'm gonna give it to The Last Circus. My favorite character, I'm gonna give it to Gary Oldman as Dracula. Runner-up would be Simone in Defan. I loved her. She was such a stalker and so interesting. And then of course Mark in Peeping Tom. I thought he was a complex character. I've already said that. I just loved him. He had so many layers and I was not expecting that. Most confusing character goes to Josh in Super Dark Times. If you've seen the film, you leave with more questions than answers and it's all over the place. So definitely that character, I'm like, I need some answers. And the biggest surprise film for the month, the one that I walked out going, oh my God, I was gonna give it to The Last Circus, but I feel like I already gave that most creative. I would definitely give it to Tag, which I was really shocked by because I'd already seen that opening scene, but I had no idea the rest of the film was so wild. Tag, and of course, Defan. I thought The Fan was just, I don't even know, like when I think about that film, I just think of it as like an art installation. It was so interesting. What are you guys' favorite for the month? And before I go as well, I'm going to include some of my favorite comments on the screen now. You guys left me so many cool comments and I love you guys so much for all of them. I can't include any of the more recent ones at the moment because I am, you know, filming this a little bit early. If you didn't know, some of my 31 Days of Horror was pre-recorded because I'm in America right now. Yay! So I am still in America right now. If you want to go check out what I'm doing, head over to Spooky Astronauts on Instagram. I'll be Instagramming the whole thing, and I'm sure I'll have a highlight with a lot of stuff if you worry about what you've missed. I'm going to a lot of cool places on the West Coast, so I would love for you guys to check in. And on that, because I am away for another week, I'm actually going to take a week off from now. And I'll see you guys in a little bit. I hope that's okay. I've never taken any time off YouTube in my life. I've been here for 5 years. Next February will be 5 years, and I've never taken any time off, and I've done at least 2 videos every single week. So I'm gonna take some time off, especially after 31 Days of Horror, and just relax, come back to it, full fresh. I have so many ideas, you guys. When I come back, we're going full force. We're going to do some really cool stuff. So I can't wait to see you guys there. If you haven't subscribed, now is the time. We've just finished 31 Days of Horror, so I'll be out of your hair for a bit, but I'll be coming back with some awesome new content, and you guys will get to see what I've been doing in America as well. So if you guys want to subscribe, please do. If you want to go follow me over on Instagram, please do. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want me to do 31 Days of Horror next year, let me know down in the comments. I will not be offended if you don't. I do want to know the honest truth. And don't forget, there'll be 12 Days of Christmas coming up in December. That's when I get 12 movies that are picked by an outside source, and I open every single one as a present, not knowing the mystery movie that I'm watching that day. So that should be fun, but some really cool content coming up. There's some really cool movies coming out, and I can't wait to talk about them all with you guys. I love you so much. Thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you guys in a week and a little bit. I love you. Bye, guys.